The show is about to begin. Before it does, 2 public announcements. Firstly, out of consideration for your fellow patrons, please turn off your cell phones. And secondly, if you're one of those I love Pink Floyd but I can't stand Roger's politics people, you might do well to fuck off the bar.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kevin Gosztola. I'm the managing editor of Shadowproof. I do not own any of that content, although it was crudely recorded with a cell phone camera on my iPhone in Milwaukee at Roger Waters' stop on his This Is Not a Drill tour. And I'm here to celebrate what Roger Waters and his band are doing as they go city to city. It's a North American tour. That was long in the works, over 2 years. It was planned for 2020, and now it's happening in 2022. Before I get too far ahead, welcome to this channel. Welcome to the Shadowproof YouTube channel. As I said, I'm Kevin Gosztola. If you go to thedissenter.org, you can find my work on whistleblowers, Julian Assange's case. We'll be getting to Julian Assange because there's a part of the show that honors and speaks to the political case of Julian Assange and the need for people to care about what is happening to Julian and what it means for freedom of the press. But again, as I say, as a housekeeping item, you can go there to become a subscriber. I also, please like this video. There will be copyrighted content that is shown, which means that this video cannot have ad placed in them. The revenue goes directly to Roger and the people who own his work. And I'm not going to get a cent from this as a creator, even though I'm doing commentary and adding something to this. But I still think, it's fun to get everybody together. We all are fans. And I presume if you're here, you're a fan in some way, shape, or form of what Roger does. If not, as Roger says in the video, you probably should fuck off. I can't imagine why you would be spending your time here. There are other video streams that you could view, but I mean that ever so politely as someone here to talk about what Roger is building. And as you saw, that's the opening. They go right into Comfortably Numb there. They had not begun to play the chords for that. It is a reimagined track. But let me back up because it had been 2 years in the works that they were putting together this show of This Is Not a Drill. I was able to see Roger Waters perform in Chicago on his Us and Them tour. And I've been thinking about the difference between Us and Them, that tour, and then the tour that we're seeing here right now with This Is Not a Drill that is going through the United States. And it's very urgent, the messaging in Roger's show. It's also a revolutionary concert experience in my opinion. It's something much different from the way that most concerts are performed. First, the layout of the concert is such that you have the stage in the middle. And if you listen to Roger talk, he says, this is in the round. He talks about how people are there as a community. The round is basically us being in the arena and circling the stage, and Roger and his band are in the center. The show begins when we're treated to the first chords of Comfortably Numb. There's a video monolith that's built. And I believe that Roger means that in the sense of the monolith in 2001, A Space Odyssey, and all the mysticism and intrigue that still represents from Stanley Kubrick's adaptation and the way that he presented that work, that science fiction classic. We have this video monolith, and it's dividing the band. There's a there's a cross section that goes through the stage, and you see one band performer, the different performers in the band, and Roger's somewhere in the vicinity of the stage, and they're performing Comfortably Numb. And it's different. It's much different than having the stage pushed all the way up to the wall, and you fit everyone the length of the stadium or arena, and everyone is high up. The best views are towards the front by the stage. The worst views are as far back and up in the nosebleed section. It makes it possible for everyone to feel welcome and more into being around this concert performance. And then it opens people up, I think, to the messages that are going to be shared when you consider, and this is a big part of the show, the propaganda that we're all inundated with. There's a lot in Roger's show that, even fans of his music are going to be resistant to. Just because Roger is someone who has this politics doesn't mean Pink Floyd fans have the politics, or even if they like Roger Waters' music in general, it doesn't mean that they like his politics and that they want to hear him speak. And so this opens them up. This softens people up. The way of this being in a round, it's an incredible way of bringing people in. And he speaks of this in his show now about being at the bar. He has this song that he does about being at the bar, and that's a new song that is something he wrote during the shutdown with the COVID pandemic, as he was preparing for this. So, like I said, this was something that was put together about 2 years ago, and it was supposed to happen. There's Comfortably Numb, and the difference being, to me, is these threats are much more pressing and much more distinct than 5 years ago. When you think about the show that people are treated to with Us Versus Them back in 2017, that was one in which Roger could speak to the rise of Donald Trump, but it was a lot about human empathy. He stuck really to the people. I recall the show opening with a refugee. It was tied to his album, Is This the Life We Really Want? And the show was really about the fact that we should care about these people who are erased from our news. And this dichotomy of us versus them, of recognizing that we're us and that they're them, and not allowing the ruling elites to divide us, that we should then be against the ruling elites. We should be united against those ruling elites. And then now when we see this is not a drill, Comfortably Numb opens, and what it does is effectively shows what looks like a hollowed out city that we're flying over, but it's not clear that this is a disaster area. It could be a very normal urban landscape, and it might still be a functioning city in the most capitalistic sense, in that life moves as business as usual. We see people on the street, at least the silhouettes of people, and these people are in their phones. They're moving their cogs in the machine, and they are comfortably numb. And the thing I kept saying to myself is, aren't we all a little too comfortably numb? And the way that the song has been reworked for this tour, it's not what it was when it was first recorded for The Wall. It's not that anymore. It's now more of a social commentary about us, and the words now take on a new meaning, and the way that it was performed was quite a way to get into the trio of songs that then came after, which were from The Wall. This isn't those trio of songs, but we hear Another Brick in the Wall, and we hear Happiest Days of Our Lives, and we hear we hear the Pink Floyd songs that people are here to enjoy and want to get. But a bit about those Pink Floyd tracks, and then I'm going to play. This is a crude cell phone video, but I have this queued and ready, and I want to play it for you. And as far as I know, nobody has posted this yet, but this is the part that had the message about Julian Assange, freeing Julian Assange, that had the message about the uh, all sorts of different political messages. And it was a performance of Deja Vu from Is This the Life We Really Want? And before I get to that, I want to say something about the presence of Pink Floyd in the show, because there's an ongoing conflict between Roger and the concert promoters and the people who want certain amount of Pink Floyd material to be there in the shows in order to sell tickets and put butts in seats. And they insist that Roger put a limit on the amount of new creative material that he brings into the show, and that he stick to the classics. Which a lot of artists will say that they don't really want to do that because that means playing jukebox, and they don't want to play jukebox. They want to do something fresh and engaging with every different show. And so he puts the show together, and he has to find a balance. And what's genius about what he's able to do with the Pink Floyd classic material is through the use of this, call it a video monolith throughout, because it's not just a board. The way it was, he lifted it up in the air. It hangs over us the whole time that we're in the arena. And this board, this monolith, shows us these different messages that are being pumped at us from the powers that be. It shows us the images. It outlines the threats. If the lyrics do not communicate the urgency or the severity of the threats that are facing us and humanity, then the video monolith communicates it. We're getting the images there. We're seeing these different threats throughout. We're seeing policing. We're seeing Christian fascism. We get to see the wars for empire and what that does. We get to see the threat of the fossil fuel industry, and especially its effect on indigenous people. He brought that into his Milwaukee show. There was a filmmaker of the Sacred and the Snake documentary, and I presume it's making rounds on the festival circuit. I am looking forward to getting a chance to see it. But this was about Standing Rock and their struggle to stop the Dakota Access Pipeline. And then there's, of course, money. And then, he spoke to Supreme Court, patriarchy, drones, that's connected back to Christian fascism, then drones to wars for empire, and nuclear holocaust, nuclear war. And obviously the way to get people awoken to this is to hit them right away with this fact of being comfortably numb, and how we must come together and recognize these threats. And the Pink Floyd music has its same classic rock qualities that everyone's expecting in the arena performance, but we're getting these messages. We're seeing that this isn't the same as it was 40 or 50 years ago. This is music that must take on much more significance now for it to be performed, in order to justify putting on this light show and giving you these this thrill, this nostalgic experience. It is not just for you to remember where you were if you are a boomer 30 and 40 years ago. It's something that has meaning for us, and the ability to have struggles for justice, and to have this space, to have someone like Roger who has the ability to bring people together and do this is remarkable. And there's few people who would do this, who would take the legacy of their music and put it at risk by tying it to present political struggles. You see all sorts of musicians who are in, for lack of a better way of representing what I'm going to say, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, who tiptoe around these issues, who get a little political but don't go too far, who think being political is associating themselves with former presidents or with politicians who are running for office, saying that they vote Democrats, and then that makes them principled. I mean, I think of, may be unfair to do this, but like a good example of someone who I think has failed to walk the walk but tried to be political is Bruce Springsteen, in that he makes an album after Occupy Wall Street that is called Wrecking Ball, that speaks to these economic issues, who claims to have working class principles, but then is palling around with President Barack Obama and doing a podcast called Renegades. That's an absolute joke of a concept that both of you, who are elite figures who have ability to be insulated from all of the problems of the world, are somehow rebelling against the system when you're effectively a part of this system. And it's not to say that there isn't a recognized and acknowledged affluence to Roger himself, but this isn't the nature of the statements that are being made in the show. This is not a drill. It is, for us, it's decidedly egalitarian and about everybody who is in attendance uh, having a chance to be acknowledged, especially if you're marginalized, having a chance to be recognized as somebody who matters in this battle of us versus them, this unending battle of us versus them. So, to say one more thing here, and then I'll show the clip. These are my friends who I met at the show in Milwaukee. These are the people who are doing tabling from city to city as Roger stops. And again, like, I mean this, it's not just about the words that you say in between songs. It's not just about what you do with the songs. It's about how you welcome grassroots activists into your shows and give them a space to do what has to be done to put these campaigns to those who are going to be open to supporting them. And they allowed the table to be there. Roger made sure that each of these people from the Milwaukee area, minus myself, were able to come and ask people what they knew about Julian Assange, introduce them to the case before the show, ask them to sign petitions, get them engaged in this political case, to recognize what is happening to Julian and to be in tune for that as it came in the show, because Julian Assange is made an appearance in the show as a subject matter that Roger spoke about. And so I met them, and James on the right, next to Anne. I met James, and we're going to do a podcast together a week from now. So on Friday, a little less than a week. I met him. He's got a local podcast in Milwaukee. He knew of my work. It was fantastic to run into somebody who had followed my journalism, who was listening to the podcast. So we were already connected in that way. And now I got to meet him in person, and we'll do a show together talking about Assange for the local people of Milwaukee. And that'll be posted. I'll share it with others once we're done. And I got to meet them, and it was great to see them all there doing this work before the show. So I'll go ahead and take this down, and now I'm going to fumble around just a little bit and get over to this video here. This is Deja Vu. This comes from Roger's Is This the Life We Really Want album, but you're going to get a treat, a little bit of the pig. We get the iconic pig from Animals that is flying over us. It says "fuck the poor" and has all these very capitalistic messages on them. And the pig goes by, and then it goes into this very beautiful, elegant song that doesn't really need much of a description. It's fairly straightforward.
If I didn't come, I would have rearranged the veins in the face of me, resistant to alcohol, less prone to aging. If I didn't come, I would have signed songs and I would not have suffered the roads to kill even one of you. If I didn't come, with my step and my love, if I didn't come, I would have a good, very good time. And I followed a drum, patrolling for the sky, with my electronic eyes, guidance, out there on my touch ride. I would be afraid to find someone. Maybe a woman in a store, make it rain, make it ice, or just boil it down some more. If I were drawn, lay down, lay over down, lay down. The temperature rises, the prairies get fat, the buffaloes run, and the mountaintops fight. The traveler's dreams are over for feels like it's low. The sun goes down and I'm still missing. Down to the color of a love that comes. Down my Wall Street circle, there's 99 cents worth of drums. never in all have chosen. I would have taken my children everyone. But then we content to follow time and spent in the company of friends, breaking bread and mending nets.
That was Deja Vu, and the part at the beginning there is from Run Like Hell, and the Roger is the Nazi, dressed up like a fascist, leaving the stage, and the song went into this version of Deja Vu from Is This the Life We Really Want? And as you see on the video board, you get the collateral murder imagery. And then having been hit with that and recognizing that that's over 10 years ago, we should think about how Julian Assange feels. But for us, as we're trying to recall where we were 12 years ago, and if we remember what collateral murder video even was back in April of 2010. So he tells everyone that nobody was ever held accountable for vaporizing those civilians, and then goes into this really gorgeous track about a lot of different pertinent issues, and it gives them the space to celebrate the need for us to all uphold human rights, and he goes through the list of the different things we should fuck and resist, and those are the Supreme Court, patriarchy, drones, guns, occupations. And then I think it's really quite interesting when we get to the part about rights, and you get to gauge the room and you get to see what people know and what people don't know about these particular issues. And you get to see from the crowd that everyone's on board with equal rights, that everyone's on board with refugee rights for the most part. Palestinian, I don't know. Should I be clapping or cheering for that? Yemeni, what is that? Why do Yemenis need rights? Well, Joe Biden just went to shake hands with Mohammed bin Salman and give away all the leverage the U.S. had, and that pretty much ended that story as to whether we're going to do anything to help the people of Yemen as Saudi Arabia continues to bomb their country and resign them to a life of famine and disease, diseases like cholera spreading through the country. Indigenous gets a really loud cheer. I think that speaks to something very positive in the last years, possibly as a result of knowing and recognizing some of these struggles around pipelines. There's the loudest cheers for reproductive rights. I'm not downplaying the significance that people care about that. That is real. Rights are being taken away. Access to healthcare is being denied. Trans rights, that also involves healthcare in some respects. And it's not just an identity issue. It's about people being able to exist. We get all these cheers, and then it ends with human rights. And all of these are human rights. All of these fit into that. And Roger uses a space of this, and in between performing those classic Pink Floyd songs, to hit us with these really important messages. And so that's that track. I do have another one to show before I conclude this video. Thank you for the super chat, Rob. Thank you for the donation. And I would like to highlight that this past week we had headlines that reminded us of why it's so dire for this war in Ukraine to continue, with the threat of nuclear war escalated. And there were headlines from a UK national security advisor, Sir Stephen Lovegrove, who said something about the risks because we're not talking enough to Russia and China. There's no dialogue. It means that miscalculations are entirely possible. He spoke to the age of proliferation in which dangerous weapons are more widely available. And this was in a speech in DC that focused on the implications of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and what he called a much broader contest unfolding over the successor to the post-Cold War international order. And he addressed the fact that Western powers benefited from negotiations that improved our understanding of Soviet doctrine and capabilities and vice versa. This gave us both a higher level of confidence that we would not miscalculate our way into nuclear war. And this was something that was brought forward and made a headline. And I think it made it very real that this is not a drill, if I'm going to use Roger's phrase, and I should in the context of this video, that people have to be aware of this. So this is something that Roger brought forward in his show. And before I get to that video, or while I am pulling up that video, I would like to second what Lisa is saying here. They need volunteers to table for Assange at Roger's shows. So if you see the list of stops for This Is Not a Drill, in fact, I'm going to pull this up right now before I go any further, just to let you all know that if you're interested, you should plan or try to reach out to the Assange Defense Committee and get yourself there to help. Get people there to introduce them to this and to make sure that they are familiar with this political case, as Roger and others want. The show is now going to be in Minneapolis on July 30th. It's going to Cincinnati on August 2nd, Philadelphia on August 5th for 2 days. There are 2 shows at the Wells Fargo Center. These all have capitalistic owners. The Columbus, or capitalist sounding names, Columbus, Ohio, August 10th, Belmont Park on August 13th, which is Long Island, New York. There's a show in DC on August 16th, right there in the heart of this empire. Raleigh, North Carolina on August 18th. You have Atlanta, Georgia on August 20th. There's a show in Miami on the 23rd of August. There's a show in Orlando on the 25th of August. There's a Nashville concert on August 27th. Back to New York for 2 dates at Madison Square Garden on August 30th and 31st. Kansas City, Missouri has a show 4 days later on September 3rd. He's in Denver on September 6th, Salt Lake City on September 8th, September 10th, Portland, Oregon, September 13th, 15th, and the 17th. He's in the Pacific Northwest in Canada. Edmonton on September 13th, Vancouver on the September 15th, and Tacoma, Washington on September 17th. The shows he has in California to round out most of the end of his U.S. tour. He's in Sacramento on September 20th. He's in San Francisco for 2 nights. It's the Chase Center on the 23rd and the 24th. He's in L.A. for 2 nights, September 27th, September 28th. He's in Vegas then, and Glendale, Arizona. Glendale is on October 3rd. Las Vegas is October 1st. Austin, Texas, October 6th. Dallas, Texas, October 8th. And then we've got the dates in Mexico. That he's in Mexico City on October 15th. That's the last date for the This Is Not a Drill tour. And I do not know if this has a European companion tour or some kind of an international tour, but I would presume that he's going to throw, 7 to 10 shows up there and try to do them with this. It's just such a powerful show to take to different places. And so back to this is what I'll do to conclude. I'll have a sign-off statement at the end. I'll do what most creators do and pitch you my stuff and ask you to support my work. And but before I do that, this is the video, and it's, again, much like the one that I showed earlier of Deja Vu, but this is Two Suns in the Sunset. This is the Pink Floyd song from the Final Cut. It's their last album that they did, and this is about a world being stricken by nuclear Armageddon, but it also doesn't really need a whole lot more for me to say, because Roger says it. So let me pull this up. Just cue this up. Thank you for your patience. I'm just gonna move this along a little bit. So we get some concert banter, and then he goes right into the song. I'm going to share this screen. And again, thank you for those of you who have tuned into the live stream. It's been fun to have you. If there's anything particular you want to celebrate or talk about that Roger does, go ahead and drop it here. We can have a fun little discussion before I run. But as I promised, here is this other clip of Two Suns in the Sunset.
Well, this is about how cool is that? That's it. Wow, I love it. I love that too. If you feel like making a bit of noise, which I'm sure you do, hang on a minute. Hang on. Could you put your hands together for my crew who build this huge thing every time? Thank you. Well done, guys. They never go to sleep. You just take this down, and they drive it somewhere else, and they put it on the bed. They're completely remarkable too. All right. I'm going to say it one more time. It has been such an enormous pleasure being in this room with all of you tonight. So thank you. Okay, we're going to do what we're going to do now. We're going to do a song off the last album that I wrote with Pink Floyd. It's called The Final Cut. The album is called The Final Cut. And the song might draw our attention to the fact that we live under the threat of nuclear war, probably more this week than any of us ever have done, any week in our lives. So this is a song about that problem. It's called Two Suns in the Sunset, and it's sort of about this, that in 1957, a committee of atomic scientists got together and they conceptualized and invented something that they called the doomsday clock. And they said, if the minute hand ever reaches midnight, that's it, we're all done. It will be a nuclear war, and we will all die in that war. And they set the clock at 20 minutes to midnight. They all met again this year. They set the clock at 90 seconds to midnight. So that bears thinking about. I'm sorry to be gloomy, and it is a bit of a gloomy subject, but I think it's something we should address, because all we have to do is, all of us, tell our idiot government we do not want nuclear weapons on this fragile planet that we call our home. What 24. I'm sorry to use that effect. Dear God. Right, I think I can hear the doomsday clock. So we'll do it. Singing by bridges in the wood. I think of all the good things that we have lived through. Suffer premonitions, confirm suspicion. I've heard ghosts come. The rusty fire that holds the core. Gives way, suddenly it's dead. So many things, even though the days two times in sunset. Could be love in pieces right. Like the moment when the brakes stop and you slide towards the big truck. The stretch of the mountain through your feet. And you'll never hear their voices. And you'll never see their faces. You'll never know it was to the Lord. As the windshield melts, your tears evaporate. Even on charcoal, finally I understand the feelings of the field. Ashes and diamonds, for friend. We were holding you in the
Oh, yes. There's two suns in the sunset. Very beautiful way of presenting nuclear holocaust, which isn't so beautiful. But, I was moved. See, sounds like I was really moved by the experience. Great concept. Yeah. And not everyone, in fact, I think 70 to 80% at this point have been priced out of being able to afford going to concert experiences like this. I bought these tickets 2 years ago, so I suppose it's debatable whether I would have spent the money I did to go now. But I just want a opportunity to share with other fans. This video was for people who appreciate the music, but also have an appreciation and admiration for the politics that Roger brings into the shows, for his willingness to connect with movements and other struggles, grassroots struggles, to not just dabble in issues that are boutique or acceptable issues for those who are celebrities. The ones that celebrities can get away with having positions and speaking about to their fans. But these are clearly statements that are ones that will be censored, of the people out there, of the musicians who have a long body, a massive body of work that goes back decades. It doesn't make you untouchable. Even someone like Roger can face censorship for ideas. And these are definitely ideas that people who put together concerts, who put the schedules together, decide to book people, they have to give it a second thought. But I think Roger kind of has these people by the balls, because Pink Floyd, one of the most enduring rock bands in the history of music. How many billions of albums did Dark Side of the Moon sell? How many millions, if not billions? I think it's in the billions of albums has The Wall sold. These albums are the kind that have left an indelible print on music, which gives Roger Waters the freedom to come city to city and hit people at a moment in which there's not a lot of space for this kind of discussion, not a lot of room. It's far less room than when Donald Trump was president. Under a Democratic administration, and we saw this under President Barack Obama, it becomes harder to be an opponent of the powers that be, because everyone identifies your opposition to right wing fascism or to right-wing authoritarianism or to people who are Republican and conservative and reactionary. And they hear what you're saying. And then there are even others who have a completely divergent viewpoint from you who end up objecting to Biden on these issues in ways that actually make sense. And you get lumped in with them, and then they tune you out and they suggest that what you're saying has no merit. And so being where Roger and others lie in their whole embrace of human rights, in their whole embrace of being against war and ending occupations and not having drones fly through the skies, not having a World War III, not being on a footing against Russia and China that puts us on a path towards nuclear holocaust, that puts it in a in a place where uh, you know, let's enjoy the music. Let's sit back and listen to the chords play. That sax is gorgeous, but let's also recognize that this is not a drill and that there's a lot that we have to do. And so, if you're of that same mind, if you go beyond just enjoying the music and you also are here for the politics, I take a moment as I wrap to invite you to the dissenter.org as a page that you can follow whistleblower stories and others who are organizing against these different issues. You can follow updates on Julian Assange's case, which certainly something that is a top cause for Roger. And a lot of Pink Floyd fans hearing about Julian Assange, maybe even for the first time in the coming weeks as he tours the United States. It's an important moment because Julian Assange is facing the very imminent prospect of being extradited to the United States come 2023. I've got a book coming, Guilty of Journalism, The Political Case Against Julian Assange in February of 2023 that gives some more details on that. There'll be more at this channel on the book in the next few months. And with that said, I thank everyone for being here who has been engaged. I've got a good comment here from a fan, so I'm going to put this up here before we go. I blend two sounds with one, two, free, four, back and forth when I try and play it. Many years apart, but seen prefect on bridge to transition both ways. Wall first album, age 10 after riding my bike. So just thank you for sharing your experience with this music and communicating to us what some of this means. Really glad to have those people here. I do not separate politics from culture. I think that I do not separate these issues from culture. There's going to be more on this channel about music and people who allow it to be space for protest. And over at shadowproof.com, we have protest songs of the week every week. And CJ Baker mostly does that for us. It's actually every other week. And but it's a space that I write about music. I've written about Roger, write about other musicians, and I think it's really important for us not to concede this, not let it just be colonized and corporatized, that we get to engage with it as well. And it's not just a cesspool for cookie cutter musicians to make the same old every single day, appeal to our nostalgia and only do, the same sort of thing that we've heard over and over again. There are people who are dying to be heard, working hard to be heard, struggling to be heard, and they make music that is something that gives me some life, gives me energy, provides a soundtrack for the work that I do, for the writings that I do, the journalism that I produce. And so I like to honor them. I like to bring them into this space. And so thank you for being here. Thanks for engaging with this. All the praise and celebration to Roger for doing this. I don't own any of these videos. I don't have the copyright for them, but I do think that they are part of fair use. I have added news and commentary to them, or news discussion and commentary to those videos. I played them within a context of talking about the concert tour and what it means, and what it means as being part of activism and protests and building spaces of community where we can have these conversations that are necessary. So with that, I've gone about an hour. It's probably more than I intended to do, but I've got to run off now, and I'll be back soon with another video.